Welcome. For today's practice, we're going to be focusing on slightly shorter practice, and we're going to be doing some things that are specifically really helpful for our low back and our sacrum, as well as this concept of grounding and feeling really settled and supported by the earth. And coincidentally, everything we're doing is also going to support the kidneys on an energetic level. So we know the kidneys are at this underneath the lower ribs. And in Chinese medicine, those kidneys are connected with the water element. And when water element is out of balance in that theory, we are feeling more fearful. And when we work with the water element on this subtle body level, we can transform or alchemize that fear energy into more of a courage, hope, faith type of energy. So we're working on all those layers, like the gross body layer, where we're working on the low back, the sacrum, and then the energetic or subtle body layers, where we're working with breath and the ways those physical movements can influence our energetics. For today's practice, if you're able to comfortably get down on the floor, I recommend it. If you're not able to get comfortably down on the floor, then you're welcome to do this practice in a bed. What you'll need, you'll see I have a chair over here. This is for folks who are going to be on the floor. You'll need a chair, but it might not have to be a folding chair. It might be more like an ottoman, a soft chair, seat of a couch. You probably need a blanket or two that can be folded up, or a pillow. If you're in your bed, you'll want to have a few bed pillows that you can stack up to be able to get your legs elevated, and that will be toward the end. All right, let's get started. So wherever you are, find a comfortable seat, whether you're in your chair or you're seated on your mat, maybe on top of a cushion. And just let yourself arrive here into your practice today. Let's take just 3 smooth, easy breaths together, in through the nose and out through the nose if you can. And the exhale, feel the body sink more down into the earth, that settled feeling on the exhale. The inhale, feel that buoyancy, that expansion in 360 degrees through the rib cage. Followed by that settling, sinking on the exhale. And now if you're watching this later and you feel like you need to discharge some stress or anxiety energy in the body, this is where you would want to do some shaking it off, some standing, swinging arm twists, anything like that that's going to help you to feel like that stress cycle has been completed. So you could press pause here if you feel like you need to do that, if you need to do some more active asanas to be able to really let your nervous system know that it's okay to have that little bit of stillness. So again, press pause here if you want to. Otherwise, we're going to make our way over to our mats, over to the bed. All right. So the first shape we're going to come into is constructive rest. To make this shape, the fuzzies there, we're going to have the feet about hip distance apart, with the feet flat, and then I'm going to rest here on my back. We want the feet to be comfortably away from the arms. So I wouldn't have my feet tucked up really close where I could touch them with my hands. I want them to be a little bit more comfortably out. Sometimes people like to draw the knees together in the center, but for today's practice, if it's comfortable, we'll keep the knees about hip distance apart. Check to see that your neck is comfortable. Sometimes people like to have a little rolled up towel or blanket underneath the neck, so that underneath the head, so that your chin is not jutting upwards. So you have that little bit of support underneath the head. Okay, so here we are, constructive rest. We'll take a few focused, easy breaths here together. And as we begin, we're going to play around with this idea of really releasing through the pelvic floor as we inhale. So the pelvic diaphragm and the respiratory diaphragm are intimately connected. And as the respiratory diaphragm is lowering So you can take a breath in. The pelvic diaphragm is also lowering, so moving together. So what we'll do here is you could rest your hands on your belly if you want. And as you take a breath in, feel the breath come to your chest, to your ribs, to your belly, and then feel it expanding down into the pelvic floor. So you can feel the pelvic floor soften and let go on the inhale. And then on the exhale, you might notice a gentle little drawing up through the pelvic floor. There's a little gentle slight contraction through the belly, through the rib cage as the breath comes out. So again, you'll inhale and feel a slight expansion through the ribs, through the belly, kind of like a balloon at the belly. And then the pelvic floor gets to lower and relax. On your exhale, the pelvic floor has a slight engagement. It's not as much as a Kegel, just a very light engagement. And then you can feel that exhale move all the way up the length of the torso. We're focusing mostly on that softening at the end of the softening at the end of the inhale. So take a few more breaths like that. It's not a particular part of the body that we're used to spending a lot of time connecting with the breath necessarily, but it can be really helpful. A lot of times, low back pain, discomfort can be connected with the pelvic floor because everything is connected. And oftentimes the pelvic floor can be in this constant contracted place, which can end up providing a lot of discomfort and imbalance to the lower back. So that's the reasoning behind this breath here. And now what we'll do is something for the hip flexors. The hip flexors are these group of muscles that help your leg to come in into flexion. The primary one being the psoas. This pose we're in here, constructive rest, is one of the best things you can do to release that psoas. You could actually just stay in this constructive rest and set your timer for 10 or 15 minutes. You could also continue on here. So what we'll do is we're just going to slowly start to slide the right leg along the mat or along the bed until it's extended. And then we're just going to notice those sensations at the top of the right thigh into the right hip. And then we'll start to slide that leg back. We're going to stay on this same side a few more times. So start to slowly, mindfully slide the leg long. Eventually your heel will just be flat. Again, you're noticing sensations here at the top of the right thigh, right hip, and then draw it back in. This is a slow, gentle, easy way to connect with the psoas muscle. Good, let's do one more. And then pause here in constructive rest again. And here's where we use our interoceptive awareness to notice. What are you noticing on the right side of the body, that right hip flexor? What are you noticing? What sensations are there? Does it feel a little bit more easeful? And especially notice how it compares to the left side. And then we'll just try the same thing on the other side. So with your left leg, let it start to slowly extend toward the bottom of your space until your leg is flat, noticing that same area of the hip flexors at the top of the left pelvic region, and then start to slide it back. So take your time. You might go faster, you might go slower. Slowly sliding the left leg out and then sliding it back in. If you want to coordinate breath with movement, you could inhale as you're sliding your leg long. You can exhale as you're drawing it back in. Keep moving at a pace that feels good for you. And don't let the simplicity of this movement make you undermine the power of what we're doing. It's actually really beneficial. And let's just do one more. Leg sliding long. Leg coming back in, and then pause. Everyday breath and notice. Okay, so now we're gonna come over onto the belly. And some people like to have a little folded blanket underneath the hip points here. I think I'm gonna skip that part today for me, but you're welcome to add that. So as you come onto the belly, we're going to do what is called krama. Krama is a word in Sanskrit that means segment. So we're going to segment out our cobra pose here. Start with your head just resting here at the center. Feel where the belly is touching the mat or the bed. And see if you can take one of those breaths that we talked about earlier as you inhale. Feel the breath coming all the way down to the base of the pelvis, to the pelvic floor, feeling the pelvic floor soften and relax. And then on the exhale, feel it gently drawing back up and in. So neither one is a pushing, it's more of an invitation, it's a letting go, it's an allowing. And so now to begin, we're gonna bring the feet together. So my feet are touching at the center here. I'm gonna have my hands under the shoulders. We're gonna do this a couple of times. So as you inhale, feet are together. We're just gonna lift the chest and face a little bit here as we come into a baby cobra. On the exhale, lower your forehead back down. So my feet are touching. Again, on the inhale, pull your palms isometrically towards your heels as you lift the chest and face, and then exhale down. We're gonna do one more like that. Feet are still together. Inhale, lengthen the spine as you lift the chest and face, and then soften back down. Rest your head. You might separate your feet a comfortable distance and then rock your hips from side to side. And then we'll separate the feet just a couple inches. So if you start with the feet together again, and then separate them just a few inches apart. I know it's hard to tell from here, and I really don't want you to turn around and crank your neck or anything trying to see, but usually you want to go further than you think. Most people, when I say 2 inches, we bring them like 6 inches apart, myself included. So go what you think is 2 inches and then bring them back in a little closer together is my best advice for that. So we'll do 3 of those here. Again, feet about a couple inches apart because we're strengthening different muscle fibers along the back, along the sacrum. So that's a really helpful thing. We're working with different muscle fibers as we bring the feet different distances apart. So when you're ready, on the inhale, pull your palms towards your heels, lift the chest and face. Then on the exhale, mindfully lowering down. And then 2 more times at your own pace. So lengthen, we're not going for a lot of height through the torso necessarily. And then 1 more time. And then rest your head. Sometimes people like to rock their hips from side to side. See if you can take one of those breaths where you're really inviting that letting go at the end of the inhale, where you're letting the pelvic floor soften and release. And we're just training ourselves to notice that. And then we'll come back. We're going to do 1 more round. So go ahead and start with your feet together. Bring them to about where they were before, so a couple inches apart, and then bring them a couple more inches apart. So they might be about 4 inches apart or so. You want it to still feel comfortable. And we'll do 3 more rounds here. On the in-breath is when we pull the palms toward the heels, lift the chest and face. The elbows are kind of drawing back toward the ribcage, and then exhale, soften down. You might notice different muscles really being activated here. It might feel a little different than the first 2 times. There's plenty of time. At the end of number 3, let your head rest again. You might rock your hips from side to side. Good. And so some of you might want to do 1 more distance, maybe a little bit further apart and do a couple rounds, but that's where we're going to pause for today. And let's go ahead. Let's roll over onto the back. If that's doable for you today, if you can easily roll over onto your back, we're going to do that for a moment because we're going to do another series lying on our front, but we want to balance things out. So we're coming back to constructive rest again. If you'd like, you could draw your knees in And add a little rock from side to side, just a slow, easy rock. So you can feel that massaging along the lower back, along the sacrum. We have a lot of parasympathetic nerve fibers that are coming out from the sacrum there. So we're doing a little massaging, which is supporting that parasympathetic or rest and digest response. Okay. And so depending upon how your back is feeling today, if you notice your back is feeling like that is plenty for me today, you could stay in constructive rest for this next piece and pick up after that, right? So you might choose to stay here if your back is like, that was enough for my body today, I'm good to go. If your body feels like a little more would be helpful or okay, we're gonna come back onto the belly again. Again, the practice here is designed to support, provide some support and strengthening to the lower back, specifically around the SI joint. So we'll come to our cobra shape again with the palms underneath the shoulders. And this time as you inhale, lift the chest and face and lift your right leg just a few inches off the ground. And then lower down. And then the next time you inhale, lift your left leg, chest and face. So my leg doesn't have to lift super high. I exhale, soften down. And this time on the in-breath, lift both legs a few inches up. The shoulders, the arms are the same as they were in the last series, and then soften down. We'll take a moment here, rest your head, feel free to rock your hips if you like. Feel the sense of groundedness with the front of the body contacting the earth. And let's do that again. So we'll draw the palms under the shoulders. On the in-breath, as you lift your chest and face, lift your right leg up a little. I'm hugging my elbows in. And on the exhale, soften down. Next in-breath, left leg lifts. Soften down. And now both legs together. So both legs lift, chest and face lift. It's a little bit like a combination between locust and cobra. And then soften back down. Rest your head again. Rock your hips if you want to. And you're always in charge of your practice. So at any time, all of our bodies are just beautifully unique. So if you feel like you would like, again, if this feels like it's good to go for today, you're welcome to come into constructive rest. Now, I'm going to guide us through one more series for those of you who would like to do that. Just one more of the same thing, right, left, and then both legs. So on the in-breath, we'll lift the chest and face. Right leg lifts a little. On the exhale, soften down. Left leg lifts. Soften down, and then both legs. And then feel free to rest again here. I always like to rock my hips side to side. That just feels comfortable. But if it feels better for your back to stay still here, then feel free to do that. Now we're going to come over onto the back again. I'm actually going to roll over and then press up. Here's where we're going to get things set up for our legs up experience. So it'll take a little bit of time for you to get set up here. Don't let that deter you. It's worth the time to get yourself set up so that you're really comfortable. Again, you might have, if you have a bolster at home, you might stack your bolster and maybe have a pillow underneath it to kind of lift it up a little higher, or even a couple of bed pillows and your bolster. I'm going to use my folding chair here. And a couple of things that I've got. This is hard metal, so I have a cushion, a blanket here folded over because that's just going to feel better on my legs. I'm also going to put some padding so that it's underneath my sacrum. So again, you might be doing this with some stacked up pillows on a bed. You might have a chair, you might have a couch. Find something that works. And then you'll sit with your body parallel to the chair, lean back, and then pivot your legs around. And now with this chair, I'm going to tuck my toes underneath there. And I'm looking for mostly a 90-degree-ish angle here between my shins and my femur bones. And so you'll notice I'm just kind of adjusting this padding underneath my sacrum so that it feels nice and supportive. You could rest your hands on your belly if you'd like, or if it's more comfortable for them to be at the sides. This is a pose of non-doing as much as possible. So we get to let the weight of gravity, the femur bone, really feel like it's nestling here in the hip socket. And you bring your attention there, really feeling that longest bone in the body where it settles in. Well, I mentioned hands on the belly. Sometimes people prefer to have their arms out to the sides or cactus. Sometimes I'll even bring them up and overhead. You also may want to have a folded towel or blanket or very, very thin pillow underneath your neck so that your chin is not jutting upward toward the sky. And then as you rest here, we'll bring our attention back to that belly breath that's expanding down into the pelvic diaphragm. So as you inhale, feel the ribcage expand, feel the belly expand, and then feel that softening and letting go at the pelvic floor. You can let the inhale just happen, or the exhale, pardon me, happen naturally, or you could slightly engage with just a slight little engagement through the pelvic floor, through the belly, ribs, and on out. Breathing in and out through the nose, if you're able to. Notice where you can do less. A lot of times we have those tension patterns that we might not even be aware of. So noticing if you can relax through the belly, relaxing through the glutes. Sometimes there's this unconscious clenching that we have in those muscles. Can you soften and let your shoulders relax down toward the earth? Can you relax your tongue and your jaw and your eyes? Where can you do less? Enjoying that sensation of breath. The inhale, bring a sense of nourishment. Exhale, bring a sense of release, letting go. And just like with all of our other postures, you are welcome to stay here longer. This is one that a lot of times folks enjoy staying in 5-10 minutes, even longer. For today's practice, we are going to transition. So my toes were tucked under the back of the chair. I'm just going to bring them out and I'm going to slide myself back a little. So my feet are on top of the chair. I'm just going to draw my right knee. The heel is going to kind of come toward the edge of the chair. I'm hugging my right knee just a little. And then I'll slide it back long again. And then we'll do left side. So left knee slides along the chair, drawing it back in. It's like what we were doing on the floor before, but our legs are up a little higher. So we'll slide that right leg long. I'm going to go ahead and ditch that blanket there. My feet will slide better. So right leg draws in any amount. And then letting go as you slide it out. We'll do the same thing over here on the left side. And then bring both heels more toward the edge of your space, edge of your chair. Some people might want to even have them in more, but if you have this folded blanket underneath, that might feel like it's too much, might feel like too much of an arch in your back. So I'm going to keep my heels on the chair today. And when you're ready, we'll stretch the legs out a little. And now to make our way, we are going to move into Shavasana next. So everyone gets out a little differently. You might start to hug your knees in, bring your bottom arm out long, and then ease over to one side using both hands to press up. And just long enough to get yourself situated for Shavasana. Now you might be a person that likes Shavasana on your side, you might like it on your back. I'm going to recommend that you have a covering over you. And a lot of times, especially when we're looking at really tending to our lower back, a lot of times having a rolled up blanket or a bolster or some bed pillows underneath the knees. So that's what I'll show here. So I've got this rolled up blanket underneath the knee pits there, and then easing on back. Again, you might want to have that slight little roll underneath the head. And not everybody feels comfortable with the legs long, even with the cushion underneath. So if that's the case, go ahead and bend your knees and bring your feet flat. You also might notice is that there's any other small, subtle movement that you would like to make so that your body feels complete. Now that that blanket is gone, I'm going to draw the knees in and add a little rock from side to side. My body just would like that. And then stretching out when you're ready. I'm just going to sit up for Shavasana so that you can hear my voice a little better. But feel free to cover up if you have an eye pillow or anything like that. Get cozy. So as you're resting here, we'll take a few conscious breaths in that same way that we've been focusing on today, and really allowing the pelvic floor, the pelvic diaphragm, to move along with the respiratory diaphragm. So they're both kind of lowering down on the in-breath, and they're both kind of lifting back up on the exhale. So sometimes it's called this canister effect. So on your inhale, feel the breath come through your nose, down the back of your throat, feeling it in your chest, in your ribs, an expansion through the belly, and a letting go through the pelvic floor. And if that breath doesn't feel familiar or comfortable, you can always change it. And you're also welcome to try it another time, right? To just kind of pick it back up another time if you'd like to. I know when I first learned it, it took me quite a while to feel like I could even just notice sensations at that area and for a sustained length of time. So be patient and kind and offer yourself grace with whatever your experience might be there. So now just let your breath be natural. You can let all of that go. And feel the support underneath you. You feel the support of the earth underneath your back, your head, your feet, your shoulders, your elbows. Really feeling that support underneath you. Letting yourself be held, settled. Notice where you can let go a little more. Maybe it's through your eyes or your jaw. Just letting the shoulders release any tension, giving the weight of the body down to the earth. Relaxing through the belly, glutes, pelvic floor. So you're welcome to stay here as long as you like. I'm going to share with you one of my favorite quotes about winter because this is being filmed during the winter time. Winter is the time of sacred balance and rejuvenation of life in preparation for the coming spring. It represents abundance, teaching, and gratitude. And that's by Noel Vignola. Sacred balance and rejuvenation of life in preparation for the coming spring. So with all of our practices and our nourishing breath, it's my hope that this was balancing and nourishing for you today. So feel free to stay in your resting shape as long as you like. And I'll see you soon. Take good care.